Mike's life, you're ready to go, Marilyn.
Okay, just 1 second. A little technical issue with the laptop. I like to have it on my desktop. Okay. All right, do we have everybody? Do we have the town attorney on Zoom yet? All right, well, I think you guys ready to get started? Everybody's good? Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the Town of North Topsail Beach Regular Board of Aldermen meeting for Thursday, July 1st. I'm actually thrilled to see so many people in the audience, so thank you all for coming out. We are going to start with the invocation. That is Mayor Pro Tem Benson.
Please stand. Let's bow our heads. We gather tonight to make important decisions for our town. Please guide us, Father, in choosing the best path forward for the issues that face us. As a board, we need your help, Father, in getting through this time of change in town administration so that we may move forward with the efficiency, effectiveness, and thoroughness our staff has provided in the past. As we welcome thousands of guests to our community this Independence Day week, we pray, Father, that their beach experience will be memorable and that they will use good judgment in any alcohol consumption so that their families, their friends, and the public will be safe traveling the highways and waterways of our community. May our town be blessed this hurricane season and continue to allow recovery from past storms without threat of devastating hurricanes that may develop this season. Especially for our Onslow County day visitors, Father, we pray that all these coming to enjoy our beautiful beach this weekend will have received the COVID vaccination to prevent spread of this terrible disease. We also give thanks for all servicemen and women who train nearby, as well as those in other branches of the military, that they acquire the skills needed to protect our country from threats around the world. At the same time, Father, we honor those who have given their lives in preservation of our freedom as we celebrate our country's 245 years of independence this week. In these things we pray, Father. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the actual approval of the agenda. And I do believe, from what I understand, we may need to table some of the consent agenda items for some of these minutes. Clerk, we don't have all of these yet, right? The minutes that are in the consent agenda to approve, we need to table those for next. Okay. Any other changes to the agenda?
Are we going to remove
Yes.
all of them? Because there's two in there. One of the two has some changes that need to be made.
I would like to remove them all.
Let's remove them all then.
Okay, the other change to the agenda I would propose is that we take the financial budget amendments out of the consent agenda and act on each of those independently for a board motion and vote.
Where is that?
Oh,
Under
One
the
is on
finance
motor
department.
tax amendment, one is on the police Lesto amendment, and the other is on the fee schedule amendment that was amended or adjusted.
So you would like to move those, Mike, where?
Guess new business.
Okay, so
And leave the motor vehicle tax refund where it is. We just usually do those in the consent. Mike?
I don't think we know.
Mike,
Mike, leave the motor, I'm sorry, Tom, leave the motor vehicle tax where it is and just move the other items up.
we usually do the motor vehicle tax in the consent agenda.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, so then under,
Just the two items, and the Lesso amendment and the fee budget schedule adjustment.
I'm actually just trying to, so that we're just gonna move those to new business
Yeah.
then, so it'll be D.
Yeah, that'll be the finance director.
Just a question, is the town attorney on yet?
Yes,
He is on, okay. Is Mr. Carter on yet? So we know
I
that.
saw
Yes.
Mr. Carter before.
they're both on.
All right, just want to make sure. Otherwise, we have to move stuff around.
Do we not have an update from Fran this month?
I'm gonna give it.
Okay. It's not, is it on here somewhere?
Yeah. I did.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Any other changes?
That'll do it.
Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented or changed, modified?
Make a motion that we approve the agenda with the changes and modifications as noted by the board.
I
Good.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, so then the next item on the agenda is the selection of the alderman. I know, Tom, I spoke with you about this, and I spoke with Mike for just a couple minutes about it. It's under town attorney.
Right.
Do we need Mr. Eads to weigh in on the process again, or do
Yes,
we
you
just
should.
need the ballots to be handed out?
Well, I think we should ask Mr. Reeds if he thinks he needs to weigh in.
I
Can you hear us?
I can't see myself. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just as I said last meeting, historically, we have done it by written ballot. And I strongly recommend we continue with that. The School of Government recommends that. The only thing that I ask is that you sign each ballot as you turn them in.
Okay.
All right.
Sherry, would you be able to pass this out some paper?
Attorney Eads, should we go through the nomination process again, or
We didn't
are we
nominate.
bound?
We
by
didn't
the
nominate.
nomination?
We didn't
Just
nominate
go from
last
the
time.
list.
We just wrote them down on the
Oh,
piece of
okay.
paper.
Right.
That's the.
The nomination process would be more akin to the yay nay vote, which is historically not how we've done it. So I recommend we do it as we did last month. And before I mute myself, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Sherry's gonna read off what we've got.
Just who they voted for. correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Connie Little. Connie. Connie.
Okay, so it looks like we have a 3-1 vote and we have a new alderman, being Connie Plettle.
All right.
We'll swear at the next meeting.
Yes,
Or she can get sworn in on her own between the.
That's fine.
at town hall, yeah.
You know, it's funny, it's the first meeting she's not been at since forever.
Okay, so the next item on, I'm just gonna keep this moving, I'm not trying to be rude, is the manager's report. So Chief, you wanna fill us in on what you've been doing?
Do that quick report for you. Want to start out with the town hall. The work on the town hall is still in progress, but it's looking good. The roof material still not been delivered. The vendor said he will ship in the next 10 days. That's been over 2 months. Should be on track to move in sometime in September. We hope for no further delays or material problems. The windows are progressing. Some siding has been ordered to repair the missing and damaged siding. Colors have been reviewed and it is looking great. Looking at parking, paid parking is continuing to work well. Improvements continue to be made. We've listened to the feedback from some of the residents and visitors, and additional signage has been installed at the entrances of the parking area. It says paid parking because they said they couldn't see the other one. We have had several questions about posting the revenues from parking. This has been completed by Caitlin and has been on the website. You can review it by going to the webpage, looking at the monthly meetings, and going under the financial report. Just wanted to let everybody know that in the audience. The holiday weekend is upon us. July 4th, the departments are ready for this weekend. Beach patrol will be out. Scott scheduled the bathrooms and trash pickup, and the parking officer said they're ready as well. The budget, just one more shout out to Caitlin for doing such a great job in working with the board and the staff on that. We'll report on Rogers Bay parking. They've been working on the buffer requirements, although that's not all complete with their getting the requirements out to them. I was out with some of the neighbors across their street there and took some pictures on Wednesday, had some positive comments about their progress. And the town attorney completed petitions that were opposed by the board. Town manager's position, we received a few applications for the manager's position, which have been provided to the board, and we've reposted the position to lead the manager's listserv and
The lead, the manager's page, and also the listserv for clerks.
for the clerk.
And I've already received a few interests today.
Okay, good. Perfect.
That's all I have.
I do have a question about the beach patrol chief.
Yes, sir.
Is that college volunteers or who is doing the beach patrol?
We scheduled to hire some in July, so we just started that, so I'm looking for some interns now.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
If you know of anybody.
Okay, no.
Just one follow-up on the parking, and I know it's posted in the financial thing, and that gives people a pretty good idea of the parking revenue. But if you look at the budget that we get next year, that gives you an idea of what the town's expecting to collect from
Right,
parking as
give you
well.
the overall.
One question. For the parking for Rogers Bay, will it be ready for them for this holiday weekend or not?
I haven't seen them. I know they were meeting with the fire chief to look at some rock requirement down there, but they haven't finished. And they need the condition is also given to them so they can finish that work.
They need the conditions, they also need to fill out a zoning application for that the proposed work can be reviewed consistent with the conditions drafted by the town attorney.
So since we have, we've got our town attorney on right now. So, Brian, for Rogers Bay, for the conditions as it relates to that parking area, do you know when you'll have those conditions drafted for them? I can't hear you. You're muted.
It's muted.
You're muted.
Sorry. I have a.
There you go.
A draft order ready. I should be able to have the final proposed order by Tuesday of next week.
Okay,
The one.
Thank
hold
you.
up- The one holdup was the condition regarding, and I'm hearing feedback. I hope you guys aren't hearing it as bad as I am.
Mm-mm.
The one holdup was how we were going to handle the commercial vehicle component. It's my understanding from the interim town manager that we were going to go with a 3-axle threshold.
Mhm.
Right.
Is that the
Okay.
consensus? So,
Yeah.
You should have that Tuesday, Monday, the holiday, Wednesday at the latest.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the town manager? Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to open forum. Clerk, do we have folks signed up?
We do. So the first person I have is Will
Don't you have a good-
Evans.
Yep. And when you come up to the microphone, if you guys could all repeat your name and your address, that's helpful for us.
I'm Will Evans. I live at 209 Seashore Drive. Across the street from the now famous 210 Seashore Drive. Made the front page of the Wilmington paper. I think we came here in 95, built in 96. We fell in love with this place, still in love with it. I lost my wife last week. Remember last days. I was involved in the town when I first got here. Tom and I were on a certain committee together, and I was involved. I'm turning 90 this year, so I'm backing up a little bit. Have the pictures, and I started about 2 years ago putting up red flags about this property. And nothing, no results, and so I keep trying every which way I can, and even notified the paper, and they sent out a report when I them, just to bring it to light. It's oceanfront, and that's the problem. People walk by and walking their dog, and and also on the beach, and as soon as they see that place, they want to inspect it. There was people today underneath that house, and so it's a safety hazard, it's a health hazard. And as soon as we can get it taken care of, it's not my problem. It's a problem with the town. I love this town. I've been involved with it and everything else. So the first thing we just need to do is to fix that one property, and then work on the other, I think, 4 properties in the same boat. And then we probably need to review how we do things after storms. Get the process started as soon as we can. Mostly because we don't want it to happen again. I invite you all, if you want to take a closer look. You can join me on my deck. I'll give you a cup of coffee. And wine time at 5. You can join me there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. And I will say I have been to this property. I know exactly which one you're talking about. And I do know that our inspections department, along with the town manager, is trying to make a difference as it's related to abandoned buildings that are safety hazards in town. So hopefully we'll be able to get some of them resolved.
Lots of conversations with town managers before. They know me by name, and sometimes they don't believe me. I don't blame them.
Well, we appreciate you coming here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Well, Island Drive. Mayor and Alderman. Who are elected for represent the whole town, and not just with, 7-5-8 representation. The saddle to deal, unknown but escalating costs over a period of my granddaughter will be dead at the end of this deal.
And a deal that is totally unnecessary and unwarranted and done without your consent. To paraphrase former president, mayor and alderman, tear down this deal. Or at a minimum, send out a survey to the affected property owners, explaining the deal to them and getting their opinion or vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm new to this meeting, so I signed up for voting for.
Oh, you just wanted.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Joe Rodriguez.
I'm with Charles.
You just wanted to write your name down.
I wanted to join something.
Thank you, sir.
Remember the last time we did that, Joe?
Yeah. I remember.
I'm sorry, this next name is Ken, and I'm sorry, I can't make out the last name.
Probably be Wilkerson.
Oh, okay.
I apologize for anything you asked. I'm Keith Wilkerson. I live at 149 Seagull Lane over here. First, I want to say that I'm trying to hurry, but I have trouble speaking, as you can see.
It's related to my handwriting too. I'm a retired police captain from New Jersey, and I was wounded on the job, and 3 brain surgeries later, here I am. So my speech is bad, and I realize that. That and coming from New Jersey is gonna be bad. But I'm speaking reference to the zoning change across the street there, the large part that Mr. Rodriguez has. The thought of having 21 homes or 42 if they're doubles is shocking to everybody that lives there, because to add all those driveways on there and people backing out and kids running out, there's bound to be a traffic accident. We had 2 accidents on it so far this year, and it's empty compared to what it will be with 42 homes there. But the street also floods, and after every rain, and if you take all that vegetation away from there, you all know what happens. Concrete blacktop, and homes do not absorb water, so it's gonna be more flooding. And I know that a lot of people say, well, we need the revenue, but I don't tell anybody that's worked on a municipal budget knows that a lot of tax money is not real profit from a home, but time to pay for kids' schooling and police and fire. Quick plug for them. We have 2 good departments here, police and fire, and they run very well and very efficient. I just want to put my plug in there because all small towns don't have that professional level that we have here. But and I just feel that we see people fly down that road at night, and there's a lot of kids walking around out there and trying to walk to a beach access, which is further down the road quite a bit. I mean, a 35-mile-per-hour zone that is now, and people go faster than that usually, and to have a bunch of people walk, a bunch of kids walking the beaches, just a matter of time before there's a problem. That's about it. I just wanted to bring that to light. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your service to your community in New Jersey, protecting the citizens there, and the town efforts to recover from your wound.
That's okay. Thank you.
It was a big job.
Anybody else? Okay, then what we're gonna do is is there anybody in the audience who did not sign up that would like to speak at this time? The next thing we have on the agenda is Mr. Carter. And sir, when we spoke about this meeting, I had asked if you could just attend if the board had any questions. And I don't know if there's anything that you specifically want to say to the board, or if you just are good answering questions, and if the board even has any questions at this point. Of course.
Just a comment. What I would say is. Right, because the PPA discussion later on.
Sir, you're okay staying on for the PPA discussion, correct?
Mayor, I can hardly hear you, so I didn't understand you. Sorry.
Can you hear me better now?
Absolutely.
So what the board doesn't have any questions for you at this particular time, but we were hopeful that you'd be able to stay on for our PPA discussion that's going to be coming up shortly in the agenda.
I'm great. I'll be right here.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. Then
Mayor,
what we'll do is we're going to, yes, sir.
may I say, Mr. Carter always looks more comfortable on Zoom than I do.
I didn't hear that.
I said, you always look more comfortable on Zoom than I do.
I try.
I'm just trying to inject a little levity here. Sorry, Mayor. Go ahead.
I love it. It's good.
Oh, you're fine. You're good. The next item is our coastal engineer update, and that's going to be our mayor pro tem, Mr. Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. On page 5 of the monthly packet, you will find a brief update on oceanfront projects from our coastal engineer, Fran Way. He's not able to be here tonight, either in person or online. And I talked with him this week about a couple of items in addition to this list here that I want to update the board and the citizens to. First of all, our contractor who is doing the Hurricane Florence dune restoration work in phases 3 through 2 this past year had to take a pause for turtle season, and the project wasn't completed. So the project will start again November 16th, when we are again allowed to haul sand on the beach. But in the meantime, the contractor was concerned that there is only 28,000 cubic yards of sand left to be distributed in that area, and it's like 1.8 miles. So in conversation with Fran, there was some misunderstanding between him and the contractor about how much sand was approved by FEMA for that dune restoration work. FEMA approved 144,000 cubic yards. So the contractor has 28,000 cubic yards left of that 144 to place on the dune line this fall. All right.
On that note, I would like to ask our town attorney if he could review that contract, because I know the contractor believes that that contract was written for more than that, that it was written for a larger amount.
Yeah, the contract was between two values. The upper limit was 250,000 cubic yards, but FEMA only approved 144. So what we've done is I talked to, in talking to Fran, he was saying, well, the state had granted another $1.5 million to the town North Topsail Beach. And that's true. And it goes back to our, the efforts of Senator Harry Brown on our behalf. And over a period of about 3 years, we had accumulated $1.5 million in funding to the town for beach nourishment work. And so today, this afternoon, I had a very productive conversation with Kevin Hart at the Division of Water Resources, who controls that funds. And I think we're on track to fulfill the obligations necessary for the state to release that $1.5 million so we can put the extra sand in the dune restoration work this fall and come up to the amount that the coastal engineer recommended, i.e. the 250,000 cubic yards. So that could be a win-win for us. The only caveat in discussing this with Mr. Hart this afternoon was he wasn't sure whether or not there's a 50-50 cost share for that $1.5 million. And so he's got to research that. We have to think about, we may have to make a match to get that money released, but we will continue to work on that point. Any questions on that? I'm going to move on to another item.
Mayor Pro Tem, I have a question. How many cubic yards are we talking about? 28,000? Is that what you said?
The amount to be placed under the FEMA approved project is 144,000, and we are 28,000 short of that goal at this time because we had to pause for turtle season.
Right. So that was my question. 28,000 cubic yards is the differential that's at issue. Did you hear me?
I have a question on.
Yes,
that one.
Brian,
Thank
hold
you.
on.
I'm
Okay,
sorry,
let's
I
let,
didn't know he wasn't.
yeah,
finished.
what were you saying, Brian?
No, the differential we're talking about is 28,000 cubic yards.
Yes.
Yeah, but so here, the issue that Mayor Pro Tem is bringing up is the contractor, in his opinion, was basing his pricing on the larger volume in that, the higher end of that contract being over 200,000 cubic yards. So he was surprised when we only need 28,000 right now. So Mayor Pro Tem Benson is trying to see if we can utilize this additional 1.5 million to get additional sand for the dune line, because the contractor doesn't think 28,000 yards is enough.
Right. Well,
Neither does the coastal engineer, for that matter.
We have made significant concessions with this contractor and renegotiated this. So I'll take that up with the Mitchell's attorneys.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't think, Brian, they're just trying to get to the point of understanding exactly how much sand we truly need. I don't think they're debating the contract. They're just trying to plan accordingly so that they can start stockpiling sand. So they want to know, do we need 150,000 cubic yards or do we need 28,000?
I got it.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
the question. Okay.
Sorry, Mike.
The other update that's new is that in June, the board approved the scope of work for Hurricane Florence, the Category G engineered beach work in Phase 5, which is over 600,000 cubic yards of sand. Well, our coastal engineer is working on the permitting for that project, and that will have to go out for bids because it's a new project. All right, because it's such a large volume of sand, we're talking about 4,000 truckloads of sand to reach that volume. The engineer is suggesting that it might be beneficial to do 2 contracts over 2 years so that the amount of sand that can be produced at the mine, which is 1,500 cubic yards a day, can keep up with the demand to put the 600,000 on the beach. So if we do go with 2 contracts, putting 300,000 on in year 1 and 300,000 in year 2, the town will not have to come up with the whole 15 million in 1 year that we were thinking we were going to have to get the bridge loan for through the municipal service district. So this could be a win-win, both in terms of efficiency and finances for the town. So I can answer any questions on that if you have them, but that's pretty much what I know.
You answered my question, and it's on the financial side.
About the 1.5 million.
Okay.
I thought we tried to use that another time and we were told that it was earmarked for a project to go along with sand at the inlet area.
Well,
For the inlet project.
in my conversations with Mr. Hart this afternoon, and following the email string that he had sent to former manager Dave Gilbride, Mr. Hart commented that, quote, the funds for Phase 2 are part of the Phase 1 through 5 that exists in North Topsail Beach. So he was now agreeing that that money could go into what we consider to be Phase 2.
Which is different than what you had mentioned previously.
Yeah.
Well, the original
And we
email
want
I
to stay
still
on
have,
that track.
the original email between the former mayor and the former senator now, who was a senator who got us that money at 500K a pop over 3 years, was that it was supposed to go to the backfill for whatever hardened structure might ever be. I'm trying to use the right words here, not get myself in trouble, but it was with the understanding that if we got a hardened structure up adjacent to the inlet, that the construction of the structure would be Phase 1, and Phase 2 of that would be the backfilling of it with sand. And that's what it was originally supposed to go for. So this is a change. And
Well, it's been several years since that money has been appropriated and sitting there. And Mr. Hart now believes that it's possible, since it's been there so long, if we can make use, we have a shovel-ready project, if we can make the match, that he release the funds. So I think we should be thinking along those lines, because the original intent, we were still 5 to 10 years away. And that money is going to dry up in the state budget if we don't apply for it pretty soon. So I think that's where we should keep our direction headed.
So initially, we asked that money be used in Phase 1 because there's no beach there. And that sand could go there. But it was denied because it was earmarked for another reason, and it was only a few months ago that this was the case. So I'm not sure I understand the reasoning that it needs to go to a FEMA project that FEMA is paying for instead of an area where it's not being fulfilled, that is a category G area, and we're only earmarked to get 15,000 cubic yards, which is really nothing. And I think if we're gonna dip into that money, it should be where there's no beach.
Yes, sir.
One is, I think what Mike is saying, we don't know if he's gonna come back to us and offer us something. And I think it'll be the board's decision at that point, whether we are willing to say something in the north end is not gonna happen maybe for 5 years and we won't take the money, or do we wanna take the money now? And until we get an answer on what we can use the money for, it's easy to come up with 1,000 different options, but I think the prudent way is to find out what we could use the money for, and if they release it to us, we can fight that argument someplace, and have that discussion. But right now, I don't, from what you said, Tom, that's different. What you said, Susan, it's different. I mean, my concern is I don't want to let money go by in the hope that we'll get it 5 or 6 years from now if we can use it now, because maybe we can set aside other funds to take care of that, because that'll free up that money. So anyway, I don't think you've had a final decision yet, right, Mike?
So another point here to your question, Alderman. This would be a separate contract. It would not be part of the FEMA contract. FEMA only allowed for 144 cubic yards when we need 250,000. So this money would be a separate contract between the state and us to get 100,000 more cubic yards of sand placed in the dune for restoration that the engineer has said from survey work that we need placed in the dune restoration work. So I see it really as a win-win.
And Mayor Pro Tem, the only thing I want to add to that, because I want to be very clear, is we're talking about it going on the dune line. We're not talking about sand going on the dry sand beach. So the areas that have not had any sand yet at all, being 2, 3, and 4, there's a lot of areas in there that we had to skip because we ran out of time with turtle season.
Yeah.
I think that's what you were trying to see if we can resolve. Yeah.
On top of that, I'll just add to that one other comment from everything I'm hearing up in Raleigh these days, talking to our state lobbyists. There's a lot of money in Raleigh right now. And we need to go in. If we're going to do this, we need to go in and ask for some more money for the beach. And we need to figure out how to do that, get Fran energized and put together a package and ask for some money quickly.
Well, I can say that the north end here is going to be here in 5 years if we don't get some sand on the beach. We can't, there. And if FEMA came through and said that they would pay for 144 cubic yards, then that's what they determined they needed for the dune restoration project, I would say.
Well, I think at this point we're going around in circles because we don't know if we can get the funds yet. And
well, I just wanted on record that
that's fine.
I don't agree with the funds necessarily going there if we're going to spend them. I actually agreed with waiting, but if they're going somewhere, I think they need to be up here.
Well, and I think the important thing to also remember is the point that Alderman Leonard just made in our conversations with our folks up in Raleigh. There's a lot of money to be earmarked in the budgets, and we are working hard to try and see what else we can submit for. So this may not be the only funds that we're trying to place, but we do need shovel-ready projects. So Mayor Pro Tem was also starting to think through that with Fran as well, as far as is it possible to expand both projects? Alderman. So
just one clarification from Mike. I'm looking at the chart that we put together that shows the stuff that's still remaining. And in phase 1, we've got 16,000 left, and upcoming in phase 2, you've got 35. So what you're saying is you're gonna need the excess just to cover what we've got here as well. It's not, it's something that is gonna go up into 1, right? To cover what we're looking at up at 1.
Okay, there's two different categories of FEMA reimbursement, as you all know. Category B, which is dune only.
Mhm.
All right. Now, the next project that we are undertaking is the category G, repair of engineered beach.
Right.
And phase 1 was an engineered beach. So between Dorian and Florence, 15,000 cubic yards were determined to be lost from that area in phase 1, and that's what will be replaced this fall. And the other 600 and some thousand yards will be down in the phase 5 area for the engineered beach there. So you're right, it's not much sand at all, but it's sand. It's 150 truckloads. Think about it like that. That's a
We
lot
had
of
less
trucks.
to
on there.
lose, so we are getting less.
Based on they do that calculation based on their annual.
Right.
You
Yeah.
got the phase 1 area got more sand from Dorian the way it was calculated than Florence, because from Florence,
Right.
a lot of that sand is out in the low tide area in front of the buildings and still part of the beach template, if you will, even though, you know, the high tide comes up to the bag line
Over it.
sometimes a year.
Okay.
I have one more
Yes, sir.
update. This doesn't relate to coastal engineer, but just from the topsoil island shoreline protection, while we're talking about shoreline matters. The Coastal Resources Commission at their June quarterly meeting took the recommendation of the science panel and accepted the inlet hazard areas as proposed. You'll remember that our town had a public hearing with the CRC and opposed the new boundaries, but they did not take our opinion, and they adopted the boundaries that the science panel recommended to the CRC. So the St. Regis Beach is now in the inlet, will now be in an inlet hazard area, as well as an ocean environmental area of concern. And the other thing that the CRC did was they approved the variance for Topsail Beach for beach maps. When you put down a restored dune like we've done in North Topsail and like they've done in Topsail Beach, CAMA will not allow you to put pilings in that unvegetated beach to make a crossover. Well, it's pretty hard for people that have a handicap to get across that soft sand. So Topsail Beach put a request in for what's called a beach mat, which is just that. It's a mat. It's about 5 feet wide. It will cross the dune and allow people in wheelchairs better access to the beach. CRC just approved it for municipalities, not for homeowners, but they've set the precedents now for other coastal communities such as us. When we do our restoration work at our public beach accesses where we determine we need a handicap access, we can apply for that beach mat exception. So that's a good thing for us.
I have one thing, Mayor Pro Tem. I would like to ask Ms. Hill if it's possible to send out to the board and post on our website the approved inlet hazard area, so folks aren't trying to dig it up on Google, because I understand it's changed many, many times, and it may only be applicable for structures over 5,000 square feet, so it may not actually negatively impact our homeowners down here, but I'm not sure because I haven't seen it recently.
We also have rules in the county land use plan with regards to higher standards in the inlet hazard area.
Okay. Okay, so if we could post that, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, we're moving right along. So I believe, Ms. Hill, you are next with the text amendment, water dependent structures, principal versus accessory.
If I can do it from here, if it'll pick up the
That's fine.
text, then we know that it's that microphone, the if they're hearing me.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So, North Carolina is a riparian state, meaning that anyone who owns land adjoining a surface water has the right to make reasonable use of that water. Boat lifts and private boat ramps are permitted as an accessory structure, however, they're not permitted as a principal structure. Boat launch ramp is defined as a facility to launch and retrieve recreational boats from a trailer. Boat houses are not addressed in table 4.1, 4-1, which is our table of permitted conditional uses, nor is it defined in chapter 11. So bear with me here, because this gets, I don't want to get too far down in the weeds, but it takes some explaining. An accessory structure is defined as a structure that is located on the same parcel or property as the principal structure, and the use which is incidental to the use of the principal structure. For example, your shed is an accessory to the principal dwelling of your house. You can't have a shed on a vacant lot because otherwise there's nothing to be subordinate to. Accessory use a use on the same lot or the same building with principal use of the lot or the building, the nature or intent of which is clearly incidental or subordinate to that principal use. Building, definition of building. So common boating facility. Jump around here too much, sorry. Common boating facility is a private nonprofit boating facility including a dock, pier, and or launching ramp, or on property having water frontage, the use which is intended to serve more than one residential lot. The right to use such facility must be conferred by easement to the residential lot is intended to serve. No commercial activities of any kind shall be allowed within the confines of the facility. Facility shall be limited to one slab per one residential dwelling unit, not to exceed 10 slabs. So now we get to, that's all of our definitions. So now we get to Division of Coastal Management and CAMA. And CAMA does not make a distinction between accessory uses and principal uses. Water dependent structures and those structures that require access or proximity to or sitting within surface waters to fulfill its purpose, such as boat ramps, boat houses, docks, and bulkheads. So they're categorizing all these water dependent structures together. Ancillary facilities such as restaurants, outlets for boat supplies, parking lots, and commercial boat storage areas are not, of course, water dependent structures. At the regular meeting on June 10th, 2021, the planning board discussed water dependent structures as defined by 15A NCAC 02B.0202 as principal use. Ms. Dixon made a motion to support staff recommendation that we are consistent with coastal management as far as permitting or allowing these structures as a principal use. Chairman McLeod also read that the planning board, I had asked that the planning board consider what constitutes reasonable principal use as applied to boat lifts, private boat ramps, and boat houses. And two, if it's determined that boat ramps, boat houses, docks, and bulkheads as principal use are desired, recommended amendment to table 4-1 to the board of Aldermen. Accordingly, full screen second motion passed 7-0. So in the attachment is proposed ordinance to amend UDO Article 4-1, Article 11. And in a nutshell, in very simple terms, what this means is if someone has waterfront property and they would like to put in a boathouse, even though they don't have the principal structure, that I would be able to approve their application as long as it met the camera requirement.
Any questions for Ms. Hill?
I do have a question. What's a boathouse? How's it different than other kinds of watercraft houses, and does it allow occupation by humans?
It does not allow occupation by humans. It is a covered boat typically a covered boat lift or to house a boat. Division of Coastal Management, our Corps of Engineers does not allow the sides to come all the way down, so it would not be fully enclosed.
It's not something that could be converted as some of the older structures on the island into living quarters.
And there's also a size limit on it. We certainly wouldn't want to promote that. I'm very sensitive to that because that would be in direct conflict with the flood regulations. So on the flood side, I would not be able to promote that.
The other question that I would have is in number 2, in the recommendation. I really don't like the idea of bulkheads on properties as a way to control inland waters. I think there are better methods available. I think our Cameron land use plan encourages living shorelines, at least I hope it would. So I would suggest we take bulkheads out of the description.
Could we do that at a separate meeting? Because there are some other things that, as we go through the ordinance, that the planning board wanted to discuss and propose amendments to. It's certainly with bulkheads, there's a height that is considered reasonable, and I think it's like 2 feet. So if you would allow me to do some more research and us leave bulkheads as it is now and allow us to do more research and let me take that before the planning board, then bring it back to you, I would greatly appreciate that.
Okay.
But you're certainly welcome to do it however you want to, but that would be my request.
And the other comment that I have is below the revised table 4, Article 11 definitions, add water dependent structures, and then it says such as. I don't think such as is the appropriate terminology because it implies that there may be other things that could fall into this category. So I think the wording should be clear there to specify specifically what is a water dependent structure.
Boat ramps, okay.
Okay.
So,
The second line there under.
right, let me read it. Let me read the whole thing. Just one more, please. Construction that require access to proximity to sitting within the surface waters. Boat ramps, boat houses, docks, bulkheads. That is from Division of Coast. That's from NCAC. That's the state's definition.
Okay.
And so you're saying that you don't want to adopt the state's definition.
I don't like it, no.
And
I think it should be specific for the water dependent structures that our community is going to permit.
And I guess, Mayor Pro Tem, the only thing I would suggest, and not just dependent on this, but anywhere that the state has a definition that we can adopt. So here's the thing, if somebody can get a permit from CAMA and North Topsail Beach then declines them because you're not thrilled with some of the wording that's in there, it puts us in a predicament
I guess so.
legally. So
And that's that's really what's been happening as through the years where people have requested boat ramps, I believe it is.
Mhm.
If I'm not mistaken, where it's permitted as accessory, but not permitted as a principal use. If it was a vacant lot, then I had no choice to deny it. And so what this does, what this proposal is to help us be more in line with both the state's definition as well as the state's permitting process.
So then it would come back to the planning board to interpret the state statute in terms of what such as means in recommending a permit.
If you've got the town attorney, if the town attorney is still there, can you ask him
Yes.
can you ask him that?
Brian, are
question
you
to
still
weigh in
there?
on it?
So if you look at Deb's, it's the ordinance regarding, trying to get back to the top of it,
No,
the
I
water
see.
dependent structure. Yeah, so it's,
I
did
see
you
it.
hear the question from Mayor Pro Tem?
I did, and I agree with Phil that to the extent we can track the state's definition, we should for consistency. we certainly can be more restrictive than the state. Such as, I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Benson, such as is kind of a nebulous phrase. That substitute, for example, or as follows type thing, but I think we should go with the state's definition.
Yes,
I was gonna make that same comment. What I'm concerned about is when you're using their language and you've got their precedents. So when you're looking at it, if you've got an issue with that, you know what they've used before. When we start changing the language on something like that, then it's going to be reinterpreted. I would get very nervous with putting the onus on the planning board to come back to us and say, well, we don't think this definition matches. Then we're asking them for legal decisions. I would be more comfortable with adopting this. And then maybe after we look at some of the precedents, if we want to amend some of the stuff, I'm fine with that. But my real focus would be, you already know what they're doing, right? I mean, that's why you're recommending it. It makes it consistent. But if we want to do things to make it more restrictive, let's make sure we do it the right way.
Yeah, I see your point, and if the planning board did make a recommendation, it's gonna come back to the board.
Exactly.
So we'll have a chance to evaluate it. So
Exactly.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, exactly.
okay, so are we at a point where we can have someone make a motion regarding the water dependent structures?
I move that we adopt the recommendations of the planning director with respect to the text amendment, water dependent structures, principal versus accessory.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Ms. Ho. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the zone, it's one of the zoning changes. I know there are two of them, and this one happens to be for Seagull Lane with Mr. Rodriguez.
I should be able to present my report without even looking at it for the many years that I've been working with Mr. Rodriguez on these 21 lots, Zone B1, at the corner of Seagull Lane and New River Road, located in the tiki bar that I'm sure that all of you are familiar with in the little marketplaces there on the corner and across from Thompson Reef.
Mhm.
Gotta get their plug in. That, and I said parcel, it's actually 21 lots put together for tax purposes. I know a lot of people were surprised when they thought it was a subdivision, but it's not. Those 21 lots exist as recorded in and I've given you the map book, page number reference somewhere. Map book 30, page 20. Mr. Rodriguez is requesting rezoning D1 to RA. If I move back, a lot of background on this. For many years, even prior to Mr. Rodriguez owning this property, many potential developers and property owners have sought to look at commercial development in that area. They've contacted me with regards to market plans, et cetera. And it has just not, that just does not lend itself where the location is from a cost benefit standpoint to make the type of investment for commercial property. One of the biggest hurdles to try to address is that FEMA, it's in our flood ordinance as well, but it's also FEMA does not allow flood proofing of commercial properties, engineered flood proofing. So it would have to be elevated. Okay. So after discussing other different potential uses and configurations with Mr. Rodriguez, we've come up with, and he's proposing the 21 lots be rezoned from B1 to RA. One of in the Campbell land use plan, it has mixed use business, and R8 is considered generally consistent with low to medium density residential. And reference 5-9 on page 9. Although this policy reflects support for medium density development, the town will not rezone any property to density less than R10, 10,000 square feet. What, I understand that that's the policy, however, from a planning standpoint, one of the questions to address is it sound planning? There are several parcels throughout the town that were initially zoned a less dense zoning district than what their size was. So right out of the gate, they were zoned, they were made non-conforming, where that those property owners would have to come and request a variance, especially if it exceeded the 80% threshold. And to give you a little bit of the background, July 19th of, or make it bigger. Yep, sorry. There we go. July 19th of 1993, there was preliminary plat approved. This case, Smith, recorded on page 35 to 36. August 19th of 93, the final plat was of the Smith tract was approved in book 44 and 45. On October 7th of 2004, there was a rezoning request from B1 to conditional use R5. And they did the combination rezoning and development, which of course is illegal today, of Seagull Village. There was a contract purchased by Mr. Eric Litvak. There was a protest petition, and because of the board members and one board member having to be recused, there was some confusion as to whether that vote counted or not. So it was initially presumed that the rezoning was approved. After the meeting, I believe that it was determined that it wasn't. So November 4th, 2004, the B1 to CUR5 with conditions passed 3-1 with Alderman Dwight recused. Believing that a supermajority requirement was satisfied, town attorneys Farley and Johnson, the application was approved. Subsequently, however, the board decided, based upon correspondence with faculty members at UNC School of Government, and based on further examination of legal issues surrounding the 4 November 2004 vote, that the absent board member should have counted as a negative vote. On 2 December 2004, the board reversed itself and declared the decision 4 November 2004 void. On 20 December 2004, the board voted again, but this time they rejected the plaintiff's application. So January 6, 2005, there was a civil summons. November 7th, 2006, there was a Court of Appeals decision with Smith filing and that counterclaim. So there's been a lot of litigation, a lot of background on this property, unfortunately. Some of you that have been here for quite a while probably remember all that. So just for everyone's background information, I wanted to include that in the staff report. It is eligible for federal flood insurance. It's in an 80 flood zone with elevations of 11 and 12 feet. The lots are the lots would be consistent with our 8 zones, the minimum lot size and lot width. And I've given you definitions for both B1 district and R8 district as well as R10 residential district. So actions by the planning board that they consider, their proposed amendment, supplement, change, modifications, or repeal of this ordinance shall be referred to the planning board for recommendation and written report to the Board of Aldermen. The following policy guidelines should be followed concerning zoning amendments, and no proposed zoning the amendment will receive favorable recommendation unless, number one, the proposal will place all property situated in the area in the same category or in approximate. As you may recall, most all of Seagull Lane are shown with topsoil reef across the way, and of course, the store remaining B1 commercial. There is convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification would be in the general public interest and not merely in the interest of the individual or small group. There's convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification would be appropriate in the area, including the proposed change. And so when, as you may recall, for those of you that are new, we might not have gone through this before. Anytime there's rezoning, you have to consider all of this, not just what may be discussed. Right? So if he says, if you ask him, and I always stay away from it, the applicant, he said, well, Deb, what are you going to build there? And I said, well, I'm going to build single family houses. And you didn't consider any, like say, if one of the permitted uses was, say, a golf course, and I decided I'd put a golf course there. And then you would be rightly upset because I didn't tell you I was building a golf course, I changed my mind, right? So, but in this case, the permitted uses by right are duplexes and single family houses. Anything else would have to have a special use permit for it. They'd have to come back to the planning board and back to the board of Aldermen for your approval. Number 4.
Character of the neighborhood.
There is convincing demonstration that the character of the neighborhood will not materially and adversely be affected by any use permitted in the proposed change. As there's topsoil reef on the ocean side and surrounded by duplexes and single family houses, the permitted by right uses of duplexes and single family houses would be similar to the existing land use. Proposed changes are accord with any land use plan and sound planning principle. And so I have an expert says any land use plan because we say we can't rezone to any greater density than R10, but then we have this lot that's 8,000 square feet and it's been 8,000 square feet for years and years and years. So
Deb, I had a question on the chart.
yes,
It
ma'am.
looks to me like when you look at the setbacks,
Yeah.
that, I mean, it's the same, whether it was an R10 or an R8, it's still got the same front yard setback, same side yard setback. Okay,
All it would do is it goes back to the sound planning principles where you have an existing lot and you've had a public hearing, you've allowed the rezoning, you've discussed the permitted uses by right, anything else would have to come back before you. So it's kind of counterintuitive to then make them come back or go to the Board of Adjustment to turn around and go to the Board of Adjustment for a variance
no,
because of
I,
the size. So to your
Yeah.
point, if the dimensions are the same, and it's going to be the same 25% or 30%,
yep, that's what it
excuse
says.
me, impervious surface.
And I guess that's the point I'm making. I know some folks are concerned about what could fit in there, but really whatever's going to fit in there has to meet all of the setbacks that are required unless a variance is approved.
That's correct. And there may be, if they've extended I wasn't aware of this, but if the CRC has approved the extension of the inlet hazard area, if this property is indeed in the inlet hazard area, our ordinance prohibits duplexes being built.
So then they'd have to be single family.
So it'd have to be single family. So that's something that I was just
Well,
aware of. So
I just looked up the proposed inlet hazard area by the science panel. New River Inlet Road in front of the reef is the northern boundary, so this
So they don't-
area we're talking about would not be in the inlet hazard area.
According to the map.
Does that say that it's the final version?
This was
Mayor
what's
Pro Tem.
proposed and there was no,
No changes?
no
Okay.
changes to it. The CRC adopted the science panel recommendation.
So my initial statement for the permitted by right with single family and duplexes would stand.
Okay. So are we at the point, Ms. Hill, that the board can ask questions?
Mr. Rodriguez and the surveyor are both here, if you would like to hear from them. Mr. Rodriguez, do you want to say anything?
First of all, I want to thank you for the time. Members of the board, Madam Mayor, city staff, fellow taxpayers. We're just here to do whatever it is that we can do to remain in compliance with what has been done before. And we're not trying to set a new course here for the north end of the island. We've gone for years now with the city attempting to find what can best fit on the north end of this island on the 5.12 acres that we have up there. And as Ms. Hill will previously mentioned here, that we've gone back and forth and we've talked to numerous people out here. And it's not that we just woke up one morning and decided that we needed to have R8. We have been working at this diligently, trying to find the best solution up there, best use of this property. So at this time, we're open to any questions, any inquiries, any suggestions, anything from the board. Yes, ma'am.
With 21, possibly 42 residents, where is the beach access?
I'm sorry?
Where would be the beach access for that?
The beach access, what the question was with 21, possibly 42 residences out there. The beach access would be the same as it is for everybody else that's up on the north end of the beach, Ms. Meyer. Yes, ma'am. No. Unless I'm wrong, I don't believe anybody else. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I don't believe that everyone else is required to have a private beach access up there on the north end either.
No, I just didn't know if there was any plans for another beach access since there's that many more people.
I'd love to have an opportunity to purchase my own beach access to convey over to this piece of property. Unfortunately, it's I don't know if any that's available. I do have another parcel of property up there that has a private beach access, and I would certainly approach the city and the organization over there that actually the HOA that allows for private beach access to see if I could convey access to that same beach, that same path to the rest of my 5.12 acres.
Where, may I ask where that's located?
That property is located over here on Gunnery Sergeant Boatman Drive,
No, so it's very close proximity.
right across the street. Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Not under public presentations and not under old business, but under new business, you will be hearing an offer from Mr. Fisher. Mr. No. Help me, it's 10 o'clock, I get sundown downer. From Mr. Fisher, that does have a property that is down from the reef, that he's offering to lease to the town for public parking, as well as creating a beach access. So that coincidentally would provide public access as well as additional parking for.
Those are my two concerns for the reef, because, you see a beach access, you want to go to it, so they cut through, and then the parking, the overflow parking could become a problem too.
Sure.
But if that is an option, possibly that will resolve itself with that.
Well,
Yeah.
and I guess though, my only concern would be to try to keep us on track with what we're asked to consider or approve. And I don't think that the beach access or additional parking is required for the rezoning. Would that be correct?
That's correct. And
Well,
we're
that,
not,
that, if I may, that's kind of my point. These tangential items, while I understand the concern, the question before the board now is whether to rezone this parcel or not. And Madam Clerk, I cannot recall if we formally opened this up for a public hearing. I know that Ms. Hill introduced the item. But
No, we did not.
So I think we should go ahead and open up the public hearing and agree that the comments we just heard from this gentleman are part of the public hearing. But I would just admonish the board that when it comes to a rezoning, it's a matter of what's allowed versus what's not allowed in that zoning district. And future issues such as beach access and parking aren't necessarily tied to the issue of rezoning or not. And I appreciate the applicant's comments that he's cognizant of those concerns. But rezoning, this is not a site-specific conditional zoning situation. It's either rezoned or it's not.
well, and if I may add to, Mr. Reed, if I may add to that the conditions to be considered are contained in the UDO section 3.07, and also it's consistent with their comprehensive plan.
So, but I think what we need to do now is make a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second. Aye.
Is there a motion to accept Mr. I'm sorry, your name?
Rodriguez.
Can I,
Mr. Rodriguez?
I would move that we accept his testimony and the presentation by Ms. Hill as part of the record.
It's part of the public hearing, yes. Okay, thank you. Is there a motion for that?
Yes.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Rodriguez? So at this point, is it appropriate, Ryan, to open it up if there's anybody else that wants to be heard? I can't hear you.
You're on mute.
Sorry. If no one else has signed up, I would go ahead and ask the audience in attendance if there's anyone else who would like to speak during this hearing. And if the case is no, then I would go ahead and make a motion to close the public hearing and you can start your deliberations.
Has anyone signed up? Or- No, does anybody like to speak?
Like to speak on a write down along this thing.
Not for on this item right now.
This item, but in a public hearing. Yeah, I don't know.
It's just for one, for each one.
Okay. Yes, sir? Did you want to speak, sir?
yes, if I could.
Come on up.
I yield to Mr. Rawls.
Joe told me. You know,
Did you state your name?
my name is Charles Rawls. I'm a land surveyor and a licensed real estate broker from Swansboro. The issue tonight is a zoning consideration between a B1 zone and an R8 zone. There's been considerations made towards development of this property in a B1 classification. To say the least, it would be difficult for several reasons. Number one, the FEMA flood restrictions, the town's restrictions on building height, along with the FEMA flood restrictions. There's concerns about coverage, and trust me, in every B1 business development concept that we considered, the impervious coverage on it was significantly more than the residential coverage. Traffic considerations would be more. You'd be drawing more and more people from elsewhere on the island to this little 5-acre spot. So
for that reason, are taking those things into consideration. That was one of the reasons why we decided to just drop back and go with a residential usage versus a mixed usage or a business usage. We felt like the impacts would be greater on a B1 development than it would be on a residential development. These lots were put on record in 1993. They were compliant. Most of these lots, except on the east end, are over 10,000 square feet. They're 200 feet deep. The block is 400 feet from street right of way to street right of way. And just on the east end, I think we've got a few lots that drop a little bit below the 10,000 square foot threshold. So with that in mind, I ask you to please consider it for rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Jeff Meyer, 2224 New River Inlet Road, unit number 138. I heard mention of a turn lane that would be required, or did I misinterpret something?
We didn't
You
talk
know,
about that tonight.
I just feel that many more units on the north end is going to cause a major traffic problem. That is the #1 drag strip in North Topsail Beach. You can sit out there at 7 o'clock when the beach closes at the north end, drive on beach. The average car is doing 45 or 50 miles an hour coming out of there. I would like to see some consideration given either reducing the speed limit along that road in conjunction with this development, or some turn lane access so that we have less accidents there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Need a motion to close the public hearing?
I just wanted to add one thing that after the planning board considered all the conditions, that by a vote of 7-0, they recommended the Board of Aldermen that you approve the rezoning application from B1 to R8.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Based on the advice of council, approve recommendations of this.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Meyer. Aye. Mayor Pro Tem Vincent.
Aye.
Alderman Leonard.
Aye.
Alderman Grant.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes.
I have a comment to make
Yes, sir.
before we go to the next item. I would charge the planning board with looking at possible options for a new camera public access in the area of the north there. At the very north of Topsail Reef, there was a camera access before the sandbag revetment. Maybe that public access could be opened if we got spatial permission from camera to be able to cross the sandbag and so forth. So we need to be planning a new camera access in that area for the reasons that we mentioned.
Right. We got the camera permit approved for the crossover, I think they're at Port Drive.
Yeah, but that's just-
So we got that one, but like I said, you're gonna be hearing a proposal in new business that may have a nice complement coincidentally to this as well.
Land was given to the town for an access. That built on the other side of building one, and that land was given to the town to do that.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next case, which is R2102 hearing. And so I guess what we need to do correctly this time is have a motion to open the public hearing. With a second? Okay. All in favor? Okay, you're up. Ms. Hill.
Big part.
I just wanted to thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez wanted to say something.
I apologize for not properly introducing myself on the front end. I was thinking about a few other things here, but I'm Joe Singh Rodriguez. Been here for actually since 1975 off and on. Own a house here on North Topsail, and I just wanted to thank the board members. Wanted to thank the city administrators and fellow taxpayers here for your support, your concern, and we will do everything we can here to ensure that we make the city proud. Thank you very much again. Thank you.
Well, I do, right? And the lights on here, so I just need to control.
Some of those things were bad. We heard of it.
I'll have to talk. I'll talk back. We're good. So we open the public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry if I get in trouble, but.
Mr. Rick, on behalf of the Smart Parent Sisters, is requesting rezoning of 3.3 Goldsboro Lane, tax map 774-22. It's an unrecorded plat from R10 to R5. Existing zoning is R10. It is surrounded by R10 zone property. And to the north, there's an 8 lot. To the east, there's a single family home. To the west is Goldsboro Lane, which is also Thompson Williams, so R10 duplexes. And then to the south is R10 vacant and the Atlantic Coast. So the lot is approximately 5,593 square feet. And planning board reviewed this at their meeting on June the 10th of 2021 by a vote of 7-0, considering the conditions, recommended approval. Campbell Land Use Plan 2021 recently certified. Map called B classifies property as medium density residential. Request for zoning change should not be approved if the requested change will result in spot zoning. This will not, I included an article on spot zoning along with the report. River State West 16 R5 is considered generally consistent with low medium density residential. Reference 5-9 page policy on it. Although this policy reflects support for medium density development, the town will not rezone any property to a density less than 10,000 square feet. This lot was created in 1973, much like it exists now, prior to the zoning, based on 434 page 214. And then in 1989, they added 400 of an acre to their existing lot. Until County was because they weren't sure if that 0.04 hundredths of an acre got conveyed with the newer deeds. Mr. Riggs could probably use that question right off the top of his head. 1982 zoning map indicated R20 zoning district, despite the obvious nonconformity with R20 zoning. 1997 through 1998, Mr. Riggs' class included R20 zoning on adjacent lots. And then April 12th, 2007, the planning board unanimously denied our case R703 through R708 of Goldsboro Lane, when we tried to have all of the properties rezoned at the same time, to be consistent with their existing size. June 7th, the Board of Aldermen unanimously denied R703 through R708. As a cover area as of October 1st of 1983, it's in a 8B flood zone. And if I can make one point as we go on, there's a condition in Board of Adjustment. I think I brought this up with the planning board, I forgot to bring it up with y'all. When you have to go to the Board of Adjustment for a variance, one of the conditions is this unique to the property? What's having this property? So you need this variance in order to make use of your lot. If the response is, no, I'm not the only one, this is not unique to me, my neighbors have the same problem, then that's a red flag for the planning board, town to stop and look and see how their ordinance is affecting a number of property owners. And if that's the case, make reasonable adjustments accordingly. Does that make sense to everybody?
That's you.
Same thing, planning board considered all the conditions, and for R5, in R5 zoning, it would be two-family or duplex, and in order for it to be more than one unit, it would have to be another 5,000 square feet for each unit over two. Setbacks are similar, 20-foot lot width, side yard, and the area coverage, 30%. Included in the package are plans, application by Mr. Rhodes, response to standards, and the legal description of the property. And Mr. Riggs is here if you would like to hear from him now.
I just, Ms. Hill, I want to add one thing before we do that, and I meant to do that before I opened the public hearing, but if there is a tie vote here, I'm recusing myself from voting because I do have this lot listed for sale.
Okay.
So
I would ask the town attorney, I'm not sure that you would even be allowed to participate in the discussion if you have a direct financial gain.
that's fine. So that's why I brought it up now, because all I've done is open the public hearing.
Right, but I would defer to the town
That's
attorney
fine.
on that.
Brian, can I turn that over to Mayor Pro Tem to run the rest of the hearing?
Yes, and I agree. If you have a conflict of interest, you should not engage in the discussion either.
That'd be fine.
Are there any other questions from
I already opened it.
the other board members about that?
Mm-mm.
All right, does anyone wish to come forward and speak?
Can we get a motion to recuse the mayor from this item?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, Abbott.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
You'll hand the gavel
Mr.
over
Riggs.
to Mayor Pro Tem, please.
You have to hand.
Here we go.
Public hearing is open.
It's your turn.
You need the microphone.
Mr. Riggs would like to know if you'd like for him to wait till Ms. Myers returns.
Oh, yes, if that's okay, I think we should. Ms. Hill, do we want the microphone over there?
I usually speak loud enough. I don't think.
Yes, you do, sir.
Okay, we're good.
We capture the text. We capture the text. So when I was reading it, I could see my text coming through.
Well, let me stand back because I moved. Charles Riggs, 502 New Bridge Street, Jacksonville. I'm here on behalf of the Herring Sisters tonight with this request to rezone this from R10 to R5. You have in your packet this the copy of the survey of the property. And I'd like to briefly go over this. This is located on Goldsboro Lane. Goldsboro Lane, of course, used to be the old New River Inlet Road. If you're not familiar with that, this particular lot's been on record for decades. It's been this size. The 6 lots directly across Goldsboro Lane on the ocean side are all also zoned R10. and they're all less than 10,000 square feet in area. The 5 lots to the east of our lot, the second row oceanfront, are also less than 10,000 square feet in that particular location. The lots to the north, there are 3 lots that are R10. They do meet the area requirement. Those lots were actually created after New River Inlet Road was shifted and the new road was built. It actually bisected that parcel of land, making that parcel landlocked, well, not landlocked, but cut that piece off, and they cut that up into 3 lots. We're here tonight to rezone it to R5 to make this lot a compatible and usable lot. The way it is today, they're not allowed to build a house because they don't meet the area requirements. There are 4 houses directly to the east. Those lots rest on 5,000 square foot lots. If those houses were to be destroyed tomorrow, I don't believe they'd be allowed to rebuild because they would not be compliant. But my client wishes that for this lot to be compliant so they can enjoy possibly a house just like the 4 residents to the east. The uses in R5 and R10 are the same. The setbacks are the same. The only difference really is the area, 5,000 or 10,000. And I believe the R10 zone requires a 60-foot width of a lot, and the R5 requires a 50. If you can see it on the survey, we have more than 60 feet. So we've already met that setback or that requirement. We are compatible with the future land use plan. This is considered medium density, which meets that plan, that definition. We're looking to make this a compatible lot with the R5. I can't say much more than that. I think I've answered most of the details about the property. I'd be glad to answer any questions or concerns you might have.
Does anybody on the board have a question for Mr. Wicks?
We do feel like that this is the first step, the rezoning, and the best step, as Deb had mentioned earlier about hardship on the lot itself.
And we've had one rezoning already, got one variance requested already.
All right. Now, the only hardship you could possibly say would be that the adjoiners got to build a house and our clients didn't. That might be considered a hardship, but I've never been to the Board of Adjustment with that argument. So, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wicks. Anyone else care to make a comment? Please come forward, state your name and your address.
Arthur Miller, 327 Goldsboro Lane. Mayor Pro Tem, I think the clerk is in hand of an email from one of our neighbors representing their position on this. I'd like to ask your permission for the clerk to read that or incorporate it with the record before I make my remarks.
I would like for the town attorney to respond to that. We actually don't do that if you're here, because otherwise, when you read somebody else's letter, we can't question them or they can't respond back. When there's also, when you send the clerk a comment, it has to be, it can't be within 2 days of the meeting. But as soon as she gets it, then if it meets those requirements, then she delivers it to the Board of Aldermen members.
The attorney, would you please?
Yes, the role, I mean, this is a quasi legislative hearing. So under the new statute, the clerk is required to send the elected body any written comments received 2 days prior to the hearing. I don't know when this particular comment was sent, but if this gentleman has the comment with him or Madam Clerk has the comment with her, I have no issue with that being read into the record. And simply because it's a relatively new rule, it's a COVID related rule. And the name of the gentleman who was just speaking, I didn't catch, But if he has the email or the comment, he is welcome to read it. If not, if Madam Clerk has it, she is welcome to read it. If it's already been forwarded to the board for your consideration, then it does not need to be reread.
What's your pleasure? What's your pleasure? To read it? Does it cut into my time if I read that? Thank you. Again, I'm Arthur.
Madam Mayor, I would recommend that it not cut into his time to read the comment. I don't know how long the comment is, but excuse me. I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem. I forgot we passed the gavel. Mayor Pro Tem, as the chair of this particular item, it's up to you. My recommendation is to allow this gentleman to read the comment and then start his time after he reads the comment.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good morning. I'm writing to request the below comments be read during today's Alderman meeting and have them added to the record. It is dated Thursday, July 1st, 2021 at 10:34 a.m. Name, Ronald Longo, address 203 Goldsboro Lane. I have concerns regarding the proposed rezoning of 323 Goldsboro Lane. Leaving aside that this same request was unanimously rejected prior, my additional concern relates to number 2 in the application under action by the planning board. Parent 2, there is convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification would be in the general public interest and not merely in the interest of an individual or small group, end quote. I do not believe this property has deeded beach access, which means that they will hope to make some arrangement with other local owners or owners. If they are unable to do so, then there is a significant risk that those residing at the property will make their way to the beach by walking over the dune or trespassing. If the property will ever be used as a vacation rental, then this will absolutely be the case. Damage to the dune due to foot traffic will impact the integrity of the dune for adjacent properties. In case of a major storm, dune failure could have major consequences to the surrounding properties. This is a very foreseeable series of events that the board must consider. In addition to there being compelling reasons to overturn a previous unanimous decision, it is my position that without a perpetual contract guaranteeing beach access, then this rezoning should not be approved. If approved, then the board without a doubt would put multiple adjacent properties at increased risk. With all the issues NTB currently experiences from visitors walking on dunes, without guaranteed perpetual access, we will experience the same, if not worse, in front of 203. Approval of this application then would not be in the general public interest, rather merely in the interest of an individual or small group in conflict with number 2 in the rezoning application. Respectfully, Ron Longo. Mayor Pro Tem, now the clock hits. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the board, I'm Arthur Miller. My wife and I own 327 Goldsboro Lane. This property that Ms. Hill referenced to the east is immediately adjacent to the subject property. Now, I'm not going to dare get into an intellectual discussion about how I feel about this because I'm ill prepared to do that. Mr. Riggs obviously is the person who knows more about the particulars of the intellect on this, but I do know about the heart. And I believe that our intellect is used by our brain to make decisions, but our judgment is conducted by the heart. And although there is a small distance between the two, I'm going to try and close the distance with my presentation here before you tonight. My wife and I bought this property in 2008, just before the arrival of Hurricane Florence. And it was her dream to have a beach house and actually going to be our forever home in the very near future, since I've already retired and she's approaching retirement. It was her dream. And we fell in love, as Will said earlier, with the charm of the small town atmosphere of North Topsail Beach. I come from a small town in Virginia, and it fit me just fine, even though I never really liked the beach as much as I do now. In 2007, there was I think it was 2007, Ms. Hill referenced, there was a unanimous decision by this board to say that this lot was unbuildable for reasons ingenious as I don't know, but that's what they unanimously said then. And when we bought this lot in July of 2018, that was one of the most attractive features about this lot, this house at 327. The lot next door, since 2007, 11 years, had sat there unoccupied and unbuilt upon. And we were excited about that because we already felt the insulation from not having anything built on that lot. Then comes Florence, and we spend $500,000 to rehabilitate and redecorate our house and fend off the hurricane vultures that came in and was willing to take our money and not do their work, use local contractors to finally get it back up. And a year and a half later, we're enjoying it. But with this rezoning, we feel like the horse is getting changed in the middle of the race for reasons previously assigned. We bought this house believing with all, and I think anybody in this room would think the same thing, after 11 years, we're probably going to have a pretty safe bet. But that's just not the case today. You know, I don't have much sympathy for somebody who rents an apartment above a nightclub or builds a house next to the interstate and then complains about the noise. But that's the exact opposite of what I'm talking about here. We came in with our eyes wide open and did our diligence and said, we believe that this is going to be a great suit for us. So we believe that the things that come from us are not intellectual in nature, but they're from the heart. And they're things that make sense, and it's something everybody in this room can understand. And I'd like to briefly touch on some of the points that Mr. Longo made about beach access. Thank you. Beach, and I'm glad it's going to be brief, huh? Beach access. I actually had a privilege that nobody in this room had, I think, and that's to talk to the potential owner. And as I stood on our private beach access there, I asked him what he was going to do about beach access. He said, well, I think I'll just use this one. Who buys a beach house without beach access? Who does that? Ostensibly, you could say they'll go to the public beach access. There's no beach access for this place. Part of your duty to us is first safety. Second of all, quiet enjoyment of our home. And I can tell you that there's not going to be much quiet enjoyment when we already have a haggle over how you're going to get to the beach from a beach house. And I think I heard some of the discussions about beach access earlier here tonight too. So please consider that, and don't think that we don't respect your autonomy here with respect to the previous decisions, but we respectfully rise in opposition to this rezoning request.
I do have a question. I'm actually looking at a satellite map of your property, and I only see one beach access there.
Yes, sir.
Do you own that?
That is not ours by ownership. We co-opt that with our neighbor, Kevin Bunn.
Okay, that's for both properties.
That's correct. Yes, we co-opt that with them. As a matter of fact, we co-opt rebuilding it after Florence. That's the access we were actually standing on. Yeah.
You vegetated the big thing.
We sure did. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's good.
We love it here.
We
really have it. And you're talking to a country boy from mountains and streams, and I love it here.
Okay.
I hope to be sitting there one day. Thank you, sir.
All right. Next, please report and say.
Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Matthew Snyder. I'm a licensed realtor representing Arthur, my in-laws who bought my grandmother's house at the end of 345 Goldsboro Lane, Thomas and Kathy Doring, and also speaking for Jenny and her family, next door neighbors on 345 Goldsboro Lane. As Arthur was mentioning, there is not a good agreement for this lot to have any beach access at all. As I'm sure town manager is aware, we have to call the police constantly there already and tie up their time to come run people off those deals. And I don't see any use in having further issues with that. Also, I believe it's a non-buildable lot. When my in-laws purchased the house, we had to contact CAMA, and they told us in January that those lots are not buildable. So I don't know why we're even having this discussion. Yeah, we didn't get the sand. The vegetative line has not been reestablished on those dunes. So the 60-foot setback has got to be in that lot for the 60-foot vegetated fine. You know, I think, you know, the surveyor here has his opinion, but I think I'm not a surveyor. I'm in the business, you know, you line up a bunch of appraisers, they got a lot of different opinions. You know, I think if we got our own surveyor, they may have a different opinion. So I think it also sets a bad precedent. There is a large parcel north of Goldsboro Lane. If we do this, what's going to stop that landowner for coming here and saying, well, you did it for them. So are we going to slice this up into R5? And I mean, I just don't really have any more than that besides, or why are we rezoning on a lot that I don't believe is buildable? Thank you for your time.
All right, anyone else? Come forward again.
Charles Riggs again. I just wanted to emphasize that we're here for rezoning of the property itself. Wetlands are not supposed to be an issue. The camel lines are not supposed to be an issue. Beach access is certainly not supposed to be an issue. We're supposed to be looking at the compatibility of the lot with the adjoining properties. The adjoining properties are of the same size as this lot. In my opinion, they were erroneously zoned R10 years ago. However, they've had the benefit of a dwelling all these years. So we are here tonight to correct a mistake that was made years ago in requesting R5 on this lot. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? May I?
Arthur Miller, 327 Goldsboro Lane. Beach access is key to this. Without respect to what Mr. Riggs said or your attorney has advised you, we're talking about quiet enjoyment of our property that we bought under the pretenses of it being unbuildable. And as a matter of fact, we tried to put in an offer just behind these people that are trying to purchase this, and we stand ready to buy this place today without any of this. So I think that beach access is critical to this. And if you live near the shoreline, near the beach, you know what I'm talking about. You don't want people building a house next to you and then trying to beg, borrow, and steal, walk across your property and cause problems, and then call people to try and sort them out in the field. Thank you.
Anybody else want to come forward? Do I have a motion to close? Second. Second. All in favor? Public hearing closed.
No, you have to.
All right.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may. Just like the last hearing, this is a rezoning. Whether the property is buildable or not is not appropriate concern. Whether the property has beach access or not is not a appropriate concern. I understand in reality that is a concern for the adjoining property owners. But the question before the board tonight is rezoning this property or not. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions for attorneys?
Ryan, does it meet the requirements?
I'm sorry?
Does it meet the requirements? You talked to us before about our obligation, if he's met all the requirements, I guess that's.
Well, yeah, that's generally in the context of a conditional use or special use permit. This is a legislative decision. So there's no binary analysis here. The question is whether you, as a board, that it would be appropriate to rezone this property or not. The tangential issues about buildability and beach access aren't necessarily relevant to the question before you. The question before you is, do you want to change what's allowable to be built on this property if it meets the building envelope criteria, et cetera? Does that make sense?
Can I respond?
Go ahead.
The planning board reviewed placed on them, and after their discussion and analysis, the recommendation was unanimous to recommend approval.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion on the planning board's recommendation?
Make a motion that we approve the planning board's recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Alderman Grant seconded the motion. Clerk call the roll.
No discussion.
So technically,
Oh, discussion, I'm sorry, discussion.
requested.
Brian, were you saying something?
Yes, I'm sorry. I said technically the motion would be to rezone the property as applied for.
Make the motion to rezone the property as applied for.
Second.
Okay, clerk, discussion. Hearing none.
Just very quickly, I was gonna mention, you're gonna get Sandy's call.
Thank you.
Okay, and Spriggs. So just want to let you guys know. No, I didn't like the gap either, so.
Right there.
Okay.
Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Meyer. Mayor Pro Tem Vincent.
Aye.
Alderman Leonard.
Aye.
Alderman Grant.
Yeah. Because public hearing. didn't- Okay, so the motion is accepted. Turn the gavel back over to the mayor.
Madam Clerk, please make sure the minutes reflect that Mayor McDermott recused herself and Mayor Pro Tem presided over this hearing.
Thank you, everyone. The next item is one that Deb has been having a ton of fun with, which is the UDO 160D amendment.
And if I may, I mean, Deb has done a outstanding job preparing this staff report. This is a perfunctory activity. The general statutes, the General Assembly has required cities and towns to adopt this. Whether we adopt this tonight or not, it's going to be applicable irrespective of our present code. I highly recommend you adopt it as presented. And having said that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Hill.
Do we open the public hearing?
I'm sorry?
Open the public hearing?
Absolutely. I just want to tell the board or discuss with the board that this is essentially mandated by the General Assembly. The effort was to take hodgepodge city and county development regulations and inconsistent ones.
I move we open the public hearing.
For 160D.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is open. Ms. Hill.
Right, I tried to make this as digestible and as easier, I don't know what the right word is, to go through. There was a updated checklist from the UNC School of Government, August of 2020. That was the most recent one. I think that was the third one that I'd seen and the third one I'd gone through. So what I did is on each one of those lines, I included in red text the cross reference to the section of the UDO. And excuse me. The planning board had continued their regular meeting until June 17th, to where that we could focus on just getting through the UDO, going through the changes. And one of the not dangers, one of the hazards, I guess, is that as you go through it, you start looking at other things that you want to change. And which is one of the things that took me so long, because I go down the rabbit hole trying to fix something and then realize that that wasn't what I was sent there for. And then I would have to hit delete, and back up out of the rabbit hole. Well, don't you know, whenever the planning board's going through it, they found a few rabbit holes themselves and started crawling down. And I said, no, let's back up. Let's just do what we have to do. Get the chapter 160B changes adopted. And then our intent is to go through and through the next month, as I mentioned in one of the last reports, is there are some things that the planning board would like to review and bring back up to you for consideration of amendments. So I appreciate the time that planning board has taken going through this with me, and certainly the time that you've taken going through it. And I hope that the way that it was presented to you facilitated compliance with the North Carolina general statutes. One thing that I did not mention in there, and I almost forgot to tell you, is whether I would have included it or not, it still would have been state law. But there's a section on building code enforcement that goes to definitions of abandonment, condemnation, and that process. As we had heard a complaint earlier, as a matter of fact. And so I ran that by building inspector Jimmy Kennedy. There was also a section in for fire code enforcement that has also been reviewed by Fire Chief Chad Sauer. And both of them, they reviewed the draft. They also reviewed the final. They both are requesting are conveying their approval on those sections that I added under, I believe it's Article 10 enforcement. If that's right. So that's to facilitate, like including it in the UDO kind of helps us all be on the same page and not have to keep going back and pulling out the general statutes for reference. But the planning board did review it in by a vote of 4-0. They recommend approval of the ordinance amending the UDO that's attached to your staff report. And thereby approval of the amendments as presented.
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Hill? Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions or would like to speak? No? I'm going to make a motion, or I'm going to request a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the UDO 1060D?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second, Susan? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any,
Discussion.
no discussion? Discussion?
I don't have anything to say.
Okay.
Just wanna make sure that-
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Hill.
Mayor, if I may, I know the matter's over now. I just want to commend Ms. Hill and the planning board. That's was not a easy undertaking. And I think they did a very good job. So I just want to commend them on the record.
Thank you, sir.
Doing the job you paid me so well for.
The next item is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended, where we were removing the meeting minutes and also moving over some of the finance items for discussion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, then we're going to move on to old business.
Are we gonna go to what Mike did, the stuff that got pulled out of there?
They're gonna go on new business.
Under new business. That's where I put them as D. So there's no name next to the municipal service district update, but I'd be happy to do that. We did, as a board, hold 2 public hearings within the last, I think, 7 to 10 days to vote on the municipal service districts. And what we did was we did pass the municipal service districts for phase 5, but we did not impose any tax increases for phase 5 specifically. if you look at the budget that was passed by the board and what I had published and what went out, I believe on Facebook and on our website, was there was a 5-cent tax increase townwide, with the majority of that going towards a capital improvements fund targeted for a public safety building and fire trucks right now. And I'm sure other items are going to come up that fall into that category as well. But the municipal service district did pass for phase 5. Any comments the board wants to add to that? Okay. The next item here is offer to purchase update, and Mr. Eads, this may be, I don't know if you're giving this update or who's giving this update, but the 2 lots that were sold to Mr. Grief and Mr. Eastman, where does that stand with where we are with the process to try and get those closed for those buyers?
At this point, Mayor, we will schedule a closing. The upset bid timeframe has elapsed, so those offers are solid and accepted. And we're going to move forward to closing out those transactions.
Okay. So if they have any questions from a process perspective, do they work through the town clerk for that, or do they go to you?
Well, they can call me directly. As you know, generally the buyer retains the quote closing attorney.
Closing attorney.
And the seller's obligation is simply to prepare a deed. The buyer's attorney does all the title work, and the seller, which in these 2 incidents would be the town, simply prepares the deed that will be recorded after the closing.
Okay.
So I don't know who these 2 individuals have retained to do their closing. And if someone would send me their contact information, I'll be happy to call them. I have a colleague here in Wilmington prepared to draft the deeds for those 2 parcels. And it's a matter of just scheduling the closing at this point.
Okay, and I believe one of them is scheduled, so I will send that information over to you and Sherry, and I'm not sure about the other one, but. Okay.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, Sherry.
So I've been dealing with both of them,
Good.
and I've had contact with them. Mr. Eastman lives out of town, he lives in another state. And
Okay.
he's not here very much, but I will give both of their information.
Perfect.
That sounds great. The lawyer here in town that will draft the deeds is the lawyer I send all of my municipal closings to. He's reliable, and we'll make it happen as soon as they're ready to close.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board on that? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Benson, Public Safety Building update?
Okay, just briefly, we're in a situation now where the architectural firm, Becker Morgan, has asked us for any final tweaks that we might want to make to the design of the building. And I've asked Chief Younger and Chief Sword for any additional ideas that they think they might want incorporated into the public safety building. Visiting Surf City to look at their new police department to get an idea of some of the things they've included, to see if there's anything they have that we need, or some things they have they would rather not have had built, so that we can design the best public safety building for our town. At this point, we have communicated with Ernie Olds from the Becker Morgan firm that the next, other than any of those changes, the next thing is we have to acquire additional property at the proposed site before we can move forward with any kind of architectural drawings or work, because we have to know what the footprint is that we're going to have available to build the building. And so until we can work out the property acquisition, I know working with property owners, trying to get them to give us a cost. They are having the land evaluated to see what it would evaluate that. And so it's a work in progress. That's all I have.
Any questions for Mayor Pro Tem? Okay. So the next item is the Army Corps of Engineers Federal Project PPA discussion and vote. And I know those of you who have been listening to us work through this project for many months. We've been struggling with a few key issues for North Topsail Beach as it relates to our participation in this project. And I'll just bullet out a couple of them. And I did put together a history along with the board members, just kind of a history of this project and all that we've been trying to work through to come up with a decision. So this is just for the benefit of the audience and those listening. The financial impacts on North Topsail Beach have just been continuing to climb. The vacant lot situation along with parking that actually exponentially increased our cost share to this project that was not eligible for either state or federal financing, which would have had to been paid out of pocket by North Topsail Beach. FEMA, we have engineered beaches here in North Topsail, so just concerned about FEMA's ability to continue to help us if we decide to move forward with the Army Corps of Engineers project in that area that Mayor Pro Tem was talking about earlier, which is getting so almost 700,000 cubic yards of sand this year. And quite frankly, the tax increases, the only way we'd be able to afford this project would be a very hefty tax increase townwide. And it benefits less than 5 miles of our shoreline. And also control, it's a 50-year project. So right now our beach projects are controlled by North Topsail Beach and planned by North Topsail Beach and our beach engineers. And the Shoreline Protection Committee is certainly a huge help there. If the board tonight decides to vote in acceptance of the PPA, then that area of beach would be controlled by the federal government and the Army Corps of Engineers. And at that point, those are just my high level. For the board. So Alderman Grant.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time looking at this project and trying to find a place where we could do this. And it'll be posted, I think, tomorrow. The Army Corps sent us a note last month indicating that we had basically let them know by July 6th, I believe, whether we were going forward with the project or not. As you'll see by the letter that the mayor sent to the Army Corps, and just to give people an idea of what we're talking about, we learned from them last month that about 13.5% of the project area was what they were willing to pay for. You say, what does that mean for the town? The way that that works in our discussions with the Army Corps is that we are required to front that money to the Army Corps before they even put our contract out to bid. That number was over $19 million that the town would have to come up with before the project was even put out to bid. In addition to that, we also learned that originally the $16 million we thought they were going to lend us has now been increased to, I'm looking at my notes here, $26 million. So what we did is we had the financial advisor to the town with a lot of input from the board looking at what does this mean to the town and putting aside what we were talking about in terms of even the MSDs that we were talking about, whether we would segregate that. Tax rates for the town, okay, would have to go up from the current 41, which is going to be, I guess, 45 today, up to $1.32 town-wide, which is a 300% increase in the taxes town-wide to do this project. That would put at risk any financing we would do for any future projects. That would put at risk any firehouses that we could do. And I don't know this, but I would assume that would probably be the highest property tax rate of anybody I've ever heard of, given that most of the towns around here are between 30 and 45 cents. So the mayor put together a letter responding back to them for the reasons that is also where if there was a storm between and when we actually went to construction or bid, that we would be open to FEMA not reimbursing us. And then finally, and I think everybody understands this, we also have 637,000 cubic yards of sand that's going to be out into the same area in the fall. And so I think when you look at this, I think the response that we had is, one, is it's impossible for the town to give them an answer by July 6th. There's too many variables out there. And given the substantial tax increase that we were talking about here, which I'm only speaking for myself, there's no way that I would support a 300% tax increase for property taxes in the town. It would put us close to the $1.50 limit we have anyway. And so I think I would ask people to take a look at what the mayor sent to the Corps that went out today on the website to get an idea. Because and also two things that she mentioned as well, is understand these are estimates for what this would cost. If we sign on to this, we are responsible for whatever it costs. And the last estimate for the project was in 2019. And I think everybody here has seen substantial increase in cost since that time. And it'd probably be another year before we could even let this thing. And so we'd be signing up for that, joint and several liability with another town, and a whole lot of things. And it's a 3-page note, but I think it summarizes, they did a very good job of summarizing our response back to them as to the financial impact this would have on the town.
Alderman Leonard.
So today I had the pleasure of speaking with Representative Phil Shepherd up at Raleigh and legislative assistants to both Congressman Murphy in Washington and Congressman Rouser to explain to them where we're headed with the project. They've all worked real hard and they've all given us a lot of support. Thing. When I start telling people that our taxes are going to go from 45 cents or whatever it is now, 45 cents to $1 over a dollar, over $1.25 or $1.32, they all understood why. They all understood why we have to do what we have to do. There are three big problems I have with the project. One is the overall cost. Second one is the 50-year commitment. And the third one is the amount of the town that it covers. We have 11.2 miles of shoreline in North Topsail Beach. 3.8 to 4 miles of the shore. It's less than 40%. Now, there was a way that this thing was going to cover the whole town at that cost. It'd still be a stretch and it'd still be ugly, and maybe we could call in the cavalry and somehow get some more money. But at the end of the day, all those things tied together, it just got to the point where the numbers kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger every time we had a discussion with the Corps of Engineers. So we have a federal project down there. We have a FEMA engineered beach there. We're going to get sand there this coming dredging season as a reimbursement for a FEMA project from Florence. And that beach is going to still be in good shape. I think it's important to also note that recently, I think over 2 or 3 years ago, the town of Topsail Beach disengaged from a Army Corps of Engineers federal beach restoration project for many of the same reasons that Rick mentioned. Primarily, they lost the control over nourishing their beach, and they basically titled it away to the federal government. The other place locally that has walked away from a federal project is up at Cape Carteret. The beach is there. The Emerald Isle chain and the rest of them there through Atlantic Beach. They walked away from one as well. And what we're trying to do up here, we're doing our best, is to look out for the whole town, look out for all our taxpayers, and make sure that we do the best job that we can do for all of our citizens and all of our property owners.
Mayor Pro Tem, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I will echo what my colleagues have already brought up. You know, back when I first was appointed as a citizen to the Topsail Island Shrine Protection Commission, the number one agenda item we had every month was, are we going to get the New Start funding for the federal project? This is back in 2015 or so. And every year, the Wilmington district said, no, we're going to put our money elsewhere. Well, finally, in 2019, Congress appropriated $751,000 for Hurricane Florence relief to the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Wilmington district finally put us forward. So it was disaster relief money that even got the Corps on track with our needs. But as been clearly pointed out, the cost of this project has more than doubled since it was first proposed and approved by the Corps back in 2010. You know, it's not that we don't want to do the project, it's we can't afford it as a community. A $6 million general fund budget, we're expected to go $35 million in debt just to put the new start construction and then the 50-year commitment, renourishment cycles every 6 years. Financially impossible for a town our size to afford that kind of a project.
Alderman Meyer, do you have anything to add?
Well, I agree with everything. everybody said. Sometimes it seems that the universe might be against us because every step of the way, there was a roadblock thrown in our direction that we had to figure out how we were going to get past it. And time after time, it just built on the idea that it just wasn't meant to be for me. So,
And do we still have Mr. Carter on the line?
You do, Mayor.
I'm just wondering, sir, I'm hopeful that you were able to hear just the comments in general from the board regarding the federal project. And I'm wondering if you have anything to add prior to us going for a motion and a vote. Do you think we missed anything?
The only thing I would add is I think the engagement by the board and the staff and looking at every element of this project, both its scope, its location, its cost, its timing, has just been exhaustive. And I really believe that for anyone who wants to look at this, the amount of effort that's been put in and the knowledge that has been gained and the review that has been given is really good for the citizens. That would be my only comment.
Thank you, sir. So what I'm going to ask is if we have a motion to approve or reject the PPA, which is the project partnership agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers.
I'll move that the town of North Topsail Beach does not sign the project partnership agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Do we have a second? And any additional discussion? No. Clerk, would you please call roll?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem. Alderman Leonard.
Aye.
Alderman Grant.
Aye.
So then we will not be signing the project partnership agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers for that project. And Mr. Carter, I just wanted to thank you for staying on with us so late. I know I certainly understand if you need to hop off.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board.
Oh, and I'm sorry. And also thank you for all the work that went into this, sir. I meant to say that earlier.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is new business. So the Onslow County VA4 dune repair. This would be what's in front of the Mr. Richard Peters Park. So Mayor Pro Tem.
I sent the board a preview of the correspondence that I've been having with the Onslow County Manager, Ms. Sharon Russell. The mayor asked me to interact with the county in regards to their request for cooperation in restoring the county property at Beach Access 4. And the preview, you don't have a copy of that because the preview is for our meeting with the county commissioners on July the 13th. But for those of you on the board, I highlighted pages 4 and 5 because it took me 3 emails to explain to the county manager what our position was in the town with regards to cooperating with repairing Beach Access 4. And so the outcome of that was the request by Manager Russell for the County Board of Commissioners to meet with the in a special meeting, like I said, on July 13th. So my comment to the board is, when we get to the meeting, we need to stay focused on the proposal that we provided to the county for repair of the dune. We did it at their request. We got a scope of work, we got a construction estimate, we got a CO's estimate. We got all the information they need to do the work to restore the breach at BA4.
Okay.
So when we get into that meeting, I would just request the board that if they start talking about tourism funds, that we carefully separate restoration of BA4 and separate that from tourism funds, because it's two different things. And that's all I have to say about it.
Okay.
Just one thing, that, I think in the mayor pro tem, this is a public hearing because it'll be our full.
Yes.
Should be our full board, their full board. And the clerk will need to notice the special meeting. Our board will be meeting with the county commissioners July 13th at 10 a.m.
And I do believe that, and just so the board understands too, this happens to be our request as it relates to BA4, but in general, they had a request to be getting together with us as a board more frequently. So this just happens to be the topic for this one, but I would imagine that these meetings are going to be ongoing in some type of form or fashion. I wanted to add this topic. We've talked about it briefly, specifically because it's 9 o'clock and staff has been working since early this morning. I would like to just throw out to the board that we possibly move to afternoon meetings, which would be in line with what the other beach towns do. They do morning and afternoon meetings. They don't always have evening meetings. I'm not saying we would never have a special meeting in the evening or on a Saturday so folks could attend, but possibly a Thursday or a Friday, afternoon. So if people really, if there's a topic they want to be here for, they can get here for the weekend. We're still Zooming, which is just becoming more commonplace now than anything. So I just wanted to kind of reach out, and I think I'll start that way, Susan, with you, Ms. Meyer, and see what you think about possibly changing the time of the meetings.
I don't have a problem with it at all. You had mentioned at one point possibly doing 11 o'clock.
Over lunch, so people want to.
People could come at lunchtime. Possibly you could do some of them then and possibly Friday afternoons. Would be my thought, because people could come on the weekend and come
Chief's on
early
it.
Friday.
Sorry, I got distracted. Somebody's in trouble now. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem. Is it?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate that we do change our meeting time, mainly because of consideration of the staff time in the evening. The other towns, like it was said, meet during the day sometimes. So I'm open to meeting during the daytime. I don't have any reservations.
I don't have a problem with it, provided it's not on a Friday.
What
Yeah.
about Thursdays around 11?
That's fine, and it's not on a Friday, in case any of our employees make a long weekend, or anyone has travel plans, but I would caution you all that this has come up from time to time before in the past, and every time we've tried to move the meetings around, we get feedback, negative feedback from our citizens about it. And I get that what works for one person might, it seems that whenever we propose a change, doesn't like it. I guess the point is you can't please everyone. But given that we only have people here for certain reasons, it seems often, like as of tonight, we started with, I don't know, a dozen or so people, and we're down to 3, and one of them doesn't count because next month she's going to be sitting up here with us. Doesn't mean you don't count, Connie, but you don't count as a spectator anymore. But I just, just be aware that we're not going to, somebody out there is going to complain no matter what we do. Okay.
Sure.
I just think the balance areas, whether people were gonna come, if it's easier for people at night, we're not seeing it. I thought that Susan made a very good point. If you did something around lunchtime or something like that, then that would allow people that are working either to participate in Zoom, or participate in person. So I think that's a very good idea.
So would the board be open to the next board meeting, or it might have to be the one after that? I don't know about the notice timeframe being, say, Thursday, the first Thursday of the month, but at 11 a.m.
So we need to go back to what we noticed last, and I don't know how far we noticed.
I don't know.
The clerk should have that, a record of that, how far down the meeting schedule, how far down the year the meeting schedule went, but we need to find that out
Okay.
first.
Could we take that as a follow-up? And Sherry, if you could get that out to the board, just so we see how far out we're going, and then we can work with the town attorney if we've got questions about what we can modify.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, all right, we're moving on. All right. Ms. Hill, I think this item is yours. Miss, yes, sir.
Mayor, I'm sorry. If we're going to change, we're gonna have to re-adopt the regular meeting schedule. If we're gonna change the time frame for the rest of the year. I can work with the town clerk and the interim town manager on that, but just so you'll know, we're gonna have to make a motion, list all those dates in the resolution and re-adopt that.
That'd be fine. And that's what we just asked Sherry, if she would please get it out to all of us, so then we can take whatever the appropriate next steps are working with you.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that. I just want to let you know that's going to be part and parcel of what we're going to have to do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Hill, the Fisher offer to lease?
Yes, and it's not a public hearing.
Okay.
It's not legislative, it's not quasi. Mr. J. Powell Fisher is offering to lease the property at 2072 New River Road. It's just down from, just up above Dolphin Shores and below.
It's in between, right?
And I'll bring up a map in just a second. The planning board reviewed his request on May the 13th. They tabled the request and heard it at the following meeting on June the 10th. Mr. Durazio made a recommendation for the Board of Aldermen to make a decision that they feel they need, what they need to do with the lot. Mrs. Brown seconded the motion. The motion passed 4-3. If the desire of the board is to negotiate the offer, the planning director recommends consulting with the town attorney and consider this matter in closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11, paragraph A, subparagraph 5. Included in your report, I could be wrong about that. That's what I'm saying. Just check with the town attorney if you do decide you'd like to do that. So everybody see it. That's it. Mr. Fisher's been working with Mr. Riggs, and Mr. Riggs has brought has two proposals for parking plans, and I'll go ahead and let him review those with you if you'd like.
The sketches that you see before you are only concepts. They don't, the parking plan does not need to necessarily look exactly like that. That just gives you an idea of the size of Mr. Fisher's property. And also the length of, the length of it, the width of it, the approximate number of cars that could actually fit there. And it would be, the way I have it shown, it would be a one-way street. Excuse me. And he's proposing that, that he's offering to lease the entire tract from New River Inlet Road all the way to the ocean. That would provide parking for the area. It would also provide beach access. So he's, the plan that you see before you isn't a formal plan for approval. It's only submitted for guidance to see if you have any desire to possibly lease some property for parking in a beach access.
Mr. Fisher's family has owned that parcel. I think that it was actually more, but he's owned that parcel for 29 years. When his father passed away and he inherited that parcel, he doesn't have any plans to build on it. Of course, they've been paying taxes on it all this time. And so with the town adopting paid parking, we thought that this might be a good opportunity both for the town as well as himself offering it to lease.
I do have one question. So if this is something that the board is interested in doing, what, it's a zoning change or is it a land use?
I don't
change?
believe that it's a zoning change or anything like that, and I'll discuss that with the town attorney. The question is, would you be interested, just as a concept, would you be interested in leasing the property from Mr. Fisher? And then if so, if you, any discussions with regards to negotiation or anything like that, I would recommend that they be done in closed session under the North Carolina General Statute section that I cited earlier. If the town attorney agrees with that.
So right now, you're just trying to pull the board to see if there's any general interest.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so do we wanna?
I think that we should look at every opportunity, since we have no idea what the intention are. If it's $1 a year.
I'm not privy to any of that.
So I think that the question should be open, open explore, just be, why wouldn't it be?
Okay. Alderman Leonard,
I
you
agree.
agree with that?
Yes, I think we should look into it.
I'm opposed because the same reason I was opposed to the special use permit for Rochester, turning what is a residential area into a public parking area. And I do think that's in the best interest of our community.
Well, I don't think that's what we're voting on today. We're just
No, we're not
asking if,
voting. We're just-
I'm just asking if you were open to exploring it with the town attorney.
I'm not.
All right, so we've got three, one. Okay. All right, so we'll follow up with the town attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for sticking on with us, Charles.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joel. Okay, and then what we wanted to do next was pull Alderman Spencer's financials over. So is Caitlin still here? Thank you, Caitlin. So, do you want to go through the items specifically? Mayor Pro Tem, which ones did you want to? You had fire department, inspections, police and planning.
Yeah, just lead us through the two budget.
Of course.
amendments you need us to make.
Yes, so the first one listed is the fee schedule amendment. So the town entered into a contract with Waste Industries in 2014, and they are now GFL to provide waste and recycling services for the town. And a section in that contract states that the town agrees to an annual adjustment in rates not to exceed 3% to reflect increases in the CPI. This year, the CPI increase was 4.6%. Therefore, our yearly increase will be 3% because it exceeds what our contract states. This was calculated and approved in the budget that you guys just approved. However, it was inadvertently missed in the fee schedule. So the fee schedule still represents last year's rate. So the approval of this amendment will properly represent the figures that are shown and calculated in the budget.
Well, they were in the consent agenda, so yeah, we probably have to do them. Yeah, so do you have a question? Just, why don't we have a motion and then a second, and if there's any questions or the fee schedule for that one, we can.
Set the fee schedule.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay.
Okay. The second one is one that is similar to ones you've seen in the past. It is about the police department. It's titled Budget Amendment 2020 to 2021.8. The police department participates in a program known as the Law Enforcement Support Program, or the LESO program, where they can obtain surplus items from the military base at no cost. And part of the stipulation of the program is when they have completed a retainage period, if they choose to sell the asset, that the proceeds must be allocated back to the police department. So the amendment is because the police department has sold another ATV recently, which collected over $4,000. And so the amendment is to properly represent the funds of the sale and allocate them properly for the budget. Thank you.
That's it.
Then we have. Ryan, do you have an attorney's report for us?
No, Mayor, I do not.
From a mayor perspective, as you all know, listening to these meetings and hearing the discussion that we've been having over the last couple of months, I just want to once again thank all of the board members and staff, not only for all the time that went into the budget, but also all the time that went into the work on the Army Corps of Engineers project to help us get to a decision point tonight. So thank you to everyone. And Alderman's report, I'm going to start with Alderman Meyer because I feel like I always start over there.
Yeah, because I was over there before. One thing I wanted to bring up is we're finally going to get the movies in the park off. We postponed the last one because of inclement weather predicted and the ground was saturated. So we just didn't do it last time. But July 10th, we will have Finding Nemo. And July 24th, we're going to do Mary Poppins. And August 7th, Charlotte's Web.
Oh, nice.
August 21st is still up in the air. So we've got that together. And one other thing I just wanted to mention, it doesn't really have to do with board business, except that it's community outlet reach. Homes for Heroes is doing a home in Jacksonville. And I had the honor of being able to volunteer over there when they did the landscaping. And I met the hero that they're building it for and his son, and it's pretty rewarding. And they're going to be having a key ceremony July 12th. I will send it to the town clerk so she could maybe post it if anybody wanted to go.
Nice.
That, and thank you to staff on all the work you've been doing. That's it.
I said a lot tonight. We have one more. I would recognize.
Oh, I think attorneys. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think Alderman Meyer said August 27th is an open date for the movie.
Yeah, August 21st.
21st.
May I suggest A Few Good Men?
Well, as long as it's rated G for everybody in the audience.
Yeah, they have a television version, but I think it's apropos given the locality of North Topsail. Over. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. All right, sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
I wanted to recognize India Mackison from our staff. India has been on board in our town for the last 2 years as a fellow from the UNC School of Government, the fellowship in which the School of Government provided half of its stipend and the town the other half. And been instrumental, but she's played a role behind the scenes, especially in this past year with COVID and her immunocompromised situation. She was forced to move back home and isolate, but she still has maintained the town webpage, the Facebook page for the town, and done projects for the town, either in cooperation with the town clerk or the town manager. And yesterday was the end of her with the town. She will be continuing on a part-time basis with the Topsail Island Shoreline Protection Commission to take our minutes, which will relieve the town clerks from each of the 3 towns that have to take the minutes.
That's nice.
So that's nice. She's going on to graduate school, and her experience here showed her that she really is interested in coastal management. So she is going to do for a master's degree in coastal management. So,
Nice.
so it was a win-win situation for her and for us because now we have another able-bodied person. Moving forward. So.
Nice.
Kudos to India.
Yes, Alderman Leonard.
I'd like to wish everybody a happy Independence Day coming up. Happy and safe Independence Day. Again, congratulations to our newest appointed alderman, Connie Tuttle. And just want to talk a little more on, very shortly, on the decision on the PPA. It was tough. And there was a lot of work and a lot of hours, a lot of discussions, a lot of research went into that decision. A lot of discussions with people in Washington and Raleigh went into that decision. The outgrowth of it is, since the state is in the budgetary process as we speak, is that we may get some additional funding back through the state, beach-related issues in other ways now that we're not going to go forward with the PPA. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that State Senator Zara lives in Jacksonville. He's a former Marine. He's been around here since forever, since I think when he was discharged from the Marine Corps after 4 years, many, many moons ago. Over the weekend, he lost his 29-year-old son. So I would wish that we kind of all say a prayer for the Zara family and keep them in our thoughts. And that's all I have there.
Thank you, sir.
Just briefly, I really appreciate all the analysis of the core project. I know it was a tough decision, but I think at the end of the day, the numbers got to the point where the citizens and taxpayers of the town got to a point where it's just not affordable. But I think that we do have a lot more projects that we're going to be planning and working on. So we're not abandoning the beaches. We're just going to make sure we spend the money in the right way. Happy 4th.
All right, I need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved. Okay. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Discussion.
Mayor, am I calling in?
Well, we could.
Mayor, am I calling?
Yeah.
I will call you on your cell phone.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Well, I think it's on, but I think I have it muted. Should I go turn it on? Hold on one second.
I don't know about that. I thought it happened. It looks like it should.
We're redoing the process.
Make a motion to come out. of
Well,
executive
Deb has to get us up
Oh,
first.
closed session.
Closed session.
I believe that you are, if I'm just double checking everything. I like to check you on my personal phone to make sure that.
Okay, so can I have a motion to come out of closed session? Second,
Second.
all in favor? There was no action taken in closed session. We do still have Attorney Eads on the line with us. He participated via conference call in closed session.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. So we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're done. Thanks, Brian.
Everybody.
You too. Have a good day.